The police radio crackled with the one code that makes every officer's blood run cold. A 3-year-old child was missing. It was early January in Louisville, Kentucky. The afternoon sky was a flat, heavy gray, and the biting winter wind was already sweeping through the suburban streets. When Officer Josh Thompson and his partner, Officer John, pulled their cruiser up to the house, the panic in the air was palpable. The front door was wide open. The parents were standing on the lawn, frantic, scanning the empty pavement. One second the boy was playing inside, the next he was just gone. In law enforcement, the first hour of a missing child case is the golden window. After that, the survival statistics plummet, especially when the temperature drops. The officers didn't waste a second. They hit the pavement running. The neighborhood was a sprawling maze of wooden fences, parked cars, and deep backyards. A 3-year-old is small enough to slip into storm drains, crawl under tool sheds, or wander blindly into traffic. Every passing minute felt like an hour. Thompson's breath plumed in the freezing air as he sprinted from driveway to driveway, his eyes scanning the shadows under parked trucks and behind trash cans. 10 minutes passed, nothing. 20 minutes, the dread began to set in. More units were called. The search grid expanded. A neighbor a few doors down flagged them over, out of breath. She said she had heard a faint ring at her doorbell earlier, but when she opened the door, the porch was completely empty. It was a lead, but a cold one. It only confirmed that the toddler was wandering alone, getting further from home. The cold was becoming a serious threat. A child that young doesn't have the body mass to survive a winter afternoon exposed to the elements. Thompson and John jogged toward the next block, their boots crunching on the frost-hardened grass. The silence of the neighborhood was deafening. Then, the silence broke. A sharp, frantic bark echoed from the end of a driveway. A scruffy neighborhood dog darted out from behind a parked sedan and planted itself directly in the path of the two officers. Thompson tried to step around the animal, his mind entirely focused on the search. But the dog didn't back down. It jumped forward, cutting off his path, barking intensely. It wasn't an aggressive, territorial warning. It was a desperate, high-pitched demand for attention. It looked over its shoulder, staring directly into Thompson's eyes. Then it barked again, one sharp, commanding sound. The officers exchanged a look. Animals possess instincts honed by millions of years of evolution, sensing things that human optics completely miss. The dog took 2 steps back toward the officers, then ran back to the fence, pacing frantically near the closed wooden gate. It was a clear, undeniable signal. "Follow me." Officer John pushed the heavy wooden gate open. The hinges whined in the cold air. The backyard looked entirely unremarkable, a patch of winter-dead grass and an SUV parked on a concrete pad. There was no sign of the boy. But the dog didn't stop. It sprinted straight across the dead grass, completely ignoring the officers now, and threw its front paws up against the side of the parked SUV. It whined, a high, anxious sound, and began furiously scratching at the passenger side door. Thompson's heart hammered against his ribs. He unclipped his flashlight, ran to the vehicle, and pressed his face against the cold, tinted glass of the passenger window. There, curled up into a tiny ball on the leather upholstery, was the 3-year-old boy. He had somehow wandered into the yard, opened the heavy car door, climbed inside to hide or get warm, and let the door swing shut behind him. He was completely invisible from the street. If they had walked past this fence, if the sun had gone down, the dropping temperatures inside that metal box could have been fatal. Thompson pulled the door handle. It opened with a heavy click. Thompson grabbed his radio. His thumb trembled slightly as he pressed the button. "Dispatch, we have him. He's safe." The crackle of relief over the radio was instantaneous. Within minutes, the boy was back in the arms of his weeping parents. The nightmare was over.
As the paramedics checked the child's vitals, Thompson turned back to look at the driveway. The dog was still there, sitting quietly on the pavement, watching the reunion. Its tail gave a slow, satisfied thump against the concrete. Thompson walked over, dropping to one knee on the freezing asphalt. He reached out, burying his hand in the scruffy fur behind the dog's ears. He didn't know who the dog belonged to. He didn't know where it came from. All he knew was that a human search grid had failed and a neighborhood stray had stepped in to finish the job. "You're a blessing from God," Thompson whispered. The dog simply leaned into his hand, closed its eyes, and let out a quiet sigh. The best detective in the city didn't wear a badge. He just had 4 legs and a perfect nose.